Pines International was formed in Hays, Kansas in 1976. The primary goal of the company was establishing a market for wheatgrass. Setting an example for sustainable land use was also a goal. While living in Hays, Kansas in the fall of 1976, Ron met Steve and explained his idea about Pines wheatgrass. Both men were poor. Steve sold some of his personal belongings to come up with $50 to open a post office box and photocopy a prospectus. By the spring of 1977, 49 people had invested in Pines International. By the end of 1978, more than 200 people had invested in the company's operations. The average investment was about $200. To establish the initial market for Pines wheatgrass, Steve and Ron traveled through 35 states and walked into more than 2,000 health food stores during the first year. In 1979, the company moved to Lawrence. The men obtained a small business loan to purchase a building and equipment. Both men continued to live well below the poverty line. Steve lived in a small home in Lawrence, while Ron lived at the office. Unable to afford full-time employees, the two men did most of the production themselves, as well as all the customer relations, order processing, and shipping. Pines was one of the first small businesses to utilize the developing computer technology. Ron had learned computer programming in college. He applied that knowledge by developing software for the rudimentary computers that were available in the early 1980s. This allowed the two men to do all office work, invoicing, and letter writing themselves without having to hire additional office personnel. Ron and Steve were also able to send out hundreds of personalized letters to customers each month and had ongoing correspondence with thousands. Over the next 15 years, Ron expanded and upgraded the computer system as technology and operating systems advanced. When the company began to hire additional employees, each employee was required to keep a daily diary. Ron developed update software that allowed Steve and him, from anywhere in the world, to have instant access to all current company information, including invoices, checks, and the daily diaries. In the early 1980s, Steve and Ron outfitted a van to use for travel to several trade shows in the natural food industry each year. During the 15 years between 1980 and 1995, the two men attended more than 40 trade shows throughout the United States, slowly increasing the market for the company's products. Although Pines did not show profits during most of the 1980s, sales increased significantly year after year. By 1986, the market for Pines wheatgrass had increased so much that Pines outgrew its small facility. The company obtained a second small business loan and built a new, modern production facility north of Lawrence at Midland Corners. By 1991, Pines needed an additional building to provide office space for its growing number of employees. In addition to paying taxes equal to nearly half of all earnings to support local, state, and federal governments, all the remaining company earnings were earmarked for sustainable land use projects and charities. The company has given away several $1 million worth of wheatgrass to feeding programs, not only in third world countries, but in the United States as well. Pines and its officers are the largest contributors to an organization engaged in cleaning up the Kansas River. The company contributes directly to scores of organizations that help the poor and undernourished. Pines also took on a project for a small, impoverished island off the coast of Belize. The company created a significant increase in the standard of living for the people on that island. Pines has also contributed computers and other supplies to the only school on the island. After years of hearing contempt and cynicism for the American free enterprise system, Steve, Ron, and the other 200 stockholders were determined in 1976 and 1977 to build a company that would prove to the world that free enterprise in America was still alive and well. They were determined to prove the skeptics wrong, who said the American system was stacked against poor people, individual initiative, and small business. The two men met the challenge of establishing markets for Pines wheatgrass by staying at campgrounds and cheap motels during the first year when they traveled through 35 states and walked into 2,000 health food stores. Steve and Ron survived those challenges and built a strong market. The company not only continued to increase its sales, but also turned its visions about sustainable land use into a reality.